Michelle, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, it is 5:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Mayor Boak? Clark?
Here.
Eisenbraun?
Here.
Herman?
Here.
Hodge?
Here.
Jacobs? Clairbeek?
Here. All right, well, to approve the agenda, I do have two corrections I need to make. We're going to postpone both 9C till next time, and then we're also going to postpone the 13A until Mayor Boak is able to be here for that as well. I'm going to request those if you guys are, we just need a motion unless there's any additional corrections to the agenda.
Second.
All right, first and a second, any questions or any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let me get back here. And now, is there any conflicts of interest to declare? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Good proof. Second.
All right, and this is a roll call vote.
Clark?
Yes.
Eisenbraun?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Clairbeek?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. And items from visitors, so Alicia, if you want to come up and introduce your guests.
Hello, my name is Alicia and I am the International Student Advisor at Black Hills State University here. And every semester we get students from Pakistan through a sponsored program that we partner with in Pakistan called IREX. And it's with a U.S. Department of State sponsored program, and so these students apply for the program and then are sponsored to come here to study for 1 semester. So through IREX we get students from Tunisia for 1 year and then Pakistan for 1 semester. So this year we had 3 Tunisian students for the year and then 3 Pakistan from the fall semester and 3 from the spring semester. And they are required to do different community service, cultural presentations, visit different parts of the Spearfish area here. So I invited all 3 of them to come here today, and they'll come up and just quickly introduce themselves to you guys, their names, majors, and a little bit about themselves. So we have Zainab, Aliyah, and Anum. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Zainab from Pakistan. I have been like an international student here from January till May for 1 semester only. And back in Pakistan, I'm doing electrical engineering, which is not so cool. And I'm doing, when I got selected at BH, I wanted to do something which I like, not what the people impose upon me. Like it was my mother's dream for me to become an engineer. That's why I'm choosing that for her. But when I got selected at Black Hills State University in Spearfish, I wanted to opt for my passion, so I opted for art. So I'm studying here arts for 1 semester only. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Alia Akram from Pakistan and I'm a junior here in Dakota State University, and my major is psychology and I have the same major back in my country, and that's I chose because I'm more interested in knowing people and their complicated behaviors. That's what I want to learn. And yeah, I'm here in the city hall. Just wanted to know what happens here and one of the things of Spearfish. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anam and I'm an international student here at KBHU. My major back at home is accounting and finance because this is what interests me most. I'm over here for just 1 semester and I'm a junior back at home. Thank you.
Well, it's my understanding, go ahead, Alicia.
No, thank
Yeah.
you then.
Okay, it's my understanding you guys wanted to get a picture, so we're all gonna come up and take a picture with you. And we do also, before we do that, I just wanna say welcome to Spearfish. So it's great having you guys here and enjoy the rest of your time. and study hard. All right, we'll come around. All right, we'll move on to item B, T.R. Chitka, to present a concept for bronze statue. So come on up. Hopefully I said that right. Oh, that is cool. I'm gonna let
For
you
those
pass
of you that aren't familiar with me, my name's Tony Kitka, and I graduated BH in '77 with an art degree. I've been doing my own casting since 1984. When I came to Spearfish to school, Spearfish was always known as the Queen City of the Hills. And I've been thinking about this piece for a long time, which would make, the ending piece would be a life-size fountain. And it depicts the Queen of the Hills, and she is in her toga wardrobe, kind of carrying back to the Passion Play, what the Passion Play represented to Spearfish. And then the fountain would actually, she'd be dropping water from her palm of her hand on the life-size piece. It would go into a pool in her apron, and then the water would fall with the fish coming up out of the water. The base would be the surrounding hills that surround Spearfish Lookout, Crow Peak. And there would be 100 of these this size that you see in front of you, about 11 inches high, a limited edition. Number 2 through 99 would be for sale. They'd all be numbered. Number 1 and number 100 would be kept back. Number 100 possibly for an auction item to maybe put money back into your city sculpture project. I want this to be a self-funding project. There also will be a corporate size, which will be about 28 inches high, and with the addition of 30, that will actually be a fountain which could go in a lobby or a large room area or so forth. What I would like to do is see if I could get approval to go ahead and sell the smaller ones and get it going. The life-size one wouldn't be done until 2021, July or August, right in that time frame. From my standpoint, I'd like it to be in the most visible spot, I guess I could, but it would all kind of count on availability for a fountain without water, so forth. Vandalism, probably not a thing taken into consideration. Her wreath is headband would actually be small pine cones. I forgot to mention that. But it's just it's a piece I've been thinking about a long time, and brought it before you today to see if I could go ahead. The only thing I would be asking from the city would be that I would do all the bronze work, get it set up for the fountain, and then the city would put the base under it however they'd want to mount it. And hopefully use the city's resources to maybe get the word out that this is happening, would happen, and get the smaller edition sold. I think it'll work pretty well. As far as getting the piece done, I take that upon myself. So that's why I want to start selling them now, promoting it now, to make sure I can stay ahead of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Any questions up front here?
When do you anticipate the small ones being available?
If it looked like this is something you would agree to, I'd go home and start, maybe tweak it just a little more, start making rubber molds. I thought about maybe being at the builder trade show in March. I could have a couple artist proofs this size, and then what I would do is I would start taking orders for numbers, and people could call in and request a number with a 50% deposit, and those that once I would start getting those out in May, right around May. But I do all my own casting, all my own foundry work. This piece would retail for $750, and it would be mounted on a finished black walnut base. Half the proceeds is what I figure would go back into, for the cost of making the bronze. The other half would go into the larger one. The fountain one with the addition of 30, the corporate one, which would be 28 inches high, which would actually be a fountain, would be $5,500.
I'm sorry if you said it. What's the final one, the full-size one? What's the finished size of that going to be?
Life size.
Life size. So the life size.
That piece there would be life size. And it would be just the bronze work, and then whatever the city wanted to do as far as the base below it, whether it be a cement bench around it or something to raise it up or however. And then I'd put the plumbing and everything inside of it so it'd be ready to attach. And then that way I'd kind of want to work with somebody from the city, waterworks engineering or whatever, to kind of make sure we get that. But that could be down the road a ways. Right now, what I'm be more trying to get done is promote this, the sale of the small ones.
So do you have a choice spot you'd want it to be? Something in your head? Where you'd
Well,
to
I'd
see
like
it?
it to be down on Main Street, of course. I guess it could possibly have a fountain, or there is water there where it could be possibly tapped into. I'm not sure, I'm not that familiar with it.
Well, I think it's great.
Additional questions? All right, and what we're looking for tonight is whether or not council is okay with this project, and also to work with city staff on finding a location. If you are okay with it, find a location that is best suited for this project. So if you're comfortable with it, do we need two motions, Ashley? Do we need one? All encompassing? Okay. So basically just be okay with the project and work with city staff to find the best location for the life-size one. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for all your hard work, and
Thank you.
look forward to seeing the finished product as well.
That's my son Tucker, he's going to college.
Tucker.
He handles all my life
Nice to meet
work.
you, Tucker.
So Tucker, why don't you see if the paper wants to get a little better picture without
Without my
the
nose.
building in the back, or the...
We can do that right here.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'll also be in the art walk in May with the Antiques and Art Gallery right next to the stadium.
Okay, excellent. All right, and we'll move on to engineering then. Come on up, Val. Award the lowest responsive and responsible bid for the 2020 sanitary sewer CIVP lining project to HydroClean LLC at a total amount of $302,793.92. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we got 5 overall bids for this, with the low as you see. The highest bid was $426,000 and change. Engineer's estimate was $362,000, and our budget was $350,000, so well under. Got a really good price on this, so just want to get it approved and get things moving and get them out there to construct this lining.
Excellent.
One question. So is that a typo? Was the budget 350, not 250? Because I was going to ask why it was significantly over budget. Is that just a...
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
The budget is $350,000. Actually, there's $250,000 for a lining project, but when we came and requested the bid opening on this, there was $50,000 for manhole rehab last year that was not used yet, and when we had found that these pipes needed to be lined, so we did not do any lining of manholes last year, and that $50,000 that's shown for this year is going to this as well, because it was not in our original capital plan. It was found when they cambered the lines and it found those issues. So it is $350,000 overall.
That's a good question. Any further questions?
Yeah, move to approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Clark.
Go ahead. Yes.
Eisenbrown.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Mayor Beek.
Yes.
All right. And purchase an additional street light at a cost of $6,723.75. The original authorization was for 29 streetlights at an overall cost not to exceed $200,000. And the additional light will bring the total to $201,712.50.
Yeah, we originally thought with our preliminary layout for the design that we'd be able to get away with 29 lights, but we had some spacing issues with some of our proposed utilities we had to move around. So 30 lights covers our lighting and our spacing much better. So technically we're over the 200,000 with that extra light, so we wanted to come back and officially get approval to order one more light.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second, roll call vote.
Clark.
Yes.
Eisenbrown.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Mayor Beek.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Kyle. And Parks and Rec award the lowest responsive and responsible bid for the 2020 pickleball court, Project 1 to GTI Companies, a total base bid of $54,397.52. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Project 1. We split this project up into two different parts because of the sport court fencing. People didn't want to do the excavation and dirt work, so this is the first part of the project. Slightly over the engineer's estimate of $50,000, but the second project came in well under bid. So we received 4 bids, with the highest being $66,772. 2 bids were rejected due to an incomplete bid package. So staff is recommending the low bid of GTI for $54,397.52 to be awarded for Project 1.
Move to approve.
Second. All right, first and a second, is there any further discussion? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Clark.
Yes.
Eisenbrown.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Mayor Beek.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And award the lowest responsive and responsible bid for the 2020 pickleball court Project 2 to LER Inc., DBA Rainier Sports, at a total base bid of $148,312.32.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the second part of it. This is the concrete slab, the sport court surfacing, and the fencing. Render Sports was the low bid. They were significantly lower than the engineer's estimate of $185,861. One bid was not accepted due to an incomplete bid package as well on that one. So total in, we're just over 200,000. We will have an additional roughly 30,000 in materials that we're purchasing as a city. We get a better rate from our vendors buying basketball standards and pickleball netting and standards, along with some engineering testing and some electrical work that needs to be done. So total package, we're looking at 235 to 240 max, unless there's some changes that go on. But
Excellent.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, first and a second, any discussion? All right, roll call.
Clark.
Yes.
Eisenbrown.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Mayor Beek.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And we'll skip 9C and move on to planning and zoning. Approve the revision to the rules of the Board of Adjustment.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, this actually is the topic of the Board of Adjustment agenda immediately
Okay,
following, so we'll
gotcha.
skip over this one.
So we'll move that down, you got it.
Yeah.
So move to B, approve the first reading of ordinance 1310 and set public hearing for February 18th, 2020 to amend Appendix A zoning article supplementary regulations, Section 6 sign regulations.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is the culmination of the Planning Commission's work to update our sign code. As described here in the action item summary, the purpose of the update is to ensure the code in its entirety reflects a content-neutral type of regulation. Well, what does that mean? Content neutrality means that we are regulating only times of display, differentiation between temporary and permanent signs. Temporary signs are displayed 7 days or less a year. Permanent signs are displayed more than that. Place of display, that describes where the signs can be located, and then the manner of display, the maximum size and number of signs, height, illumination, etc. So your measurable standards are the manner of display, as well as construction standards. So what staff did here is prepared for you a very generalized statement as to what are the goals of the project, what is a sign. We also have some new rules for temporary signs, and what I'd like to do is just kind of very quickly summarize them for you, so you understand what your passing and getting ready for public hearing on, so if we can just take a minute to look. This is really where the most work went into this project with the Planning Commission. So under the old rules, size and location were dependent upon how the sign was used. Special events, business promotions, elections, and real estate sales and leasing. These are the four main categories. The problem with these is that if you have to read the sign to determine if it's a legal or legally posted location, that is content neutral regulation. And there was a Supreme Court decision in 2015 that dramatically changed how communities should structure their temporary sign regulations. So here's what we came up with. New rules based on size and location based on where located. So notice the difference, not how used, but where located. So we're no longer classifying according to the use. No permits are required. That is the same as before, so no change there. The enforcement of temporary signs, again, displayed 7 days a month, 12 months out of the year. Enforcement is complaint-driven and city-initiated. So, for example, if we've noticed a sign has been posted on a property for longer than 7 days, we were not quite sure, we'll document, photograph, and then the 7-day clock starts to tick. So in theory, the poster of the sign will possibly get more than 7 days, but that's how we would initiate that enforcement. Under this particular provision, the feather banners, which are the tall kind of vertical banners where they're fixed on one side, would be permitted as a temporary sign, but it has to be on private property. These are very popular with businesses that want to flag something special going on. The Planning Commission felt that use as a temporary method of signage was the best. Signs posted on property for sale or lease longer than 7 days would then be permitted as permanent signs, so they're exempt from permits as well. So that's how we deal with the real estate signage. Whereas before, we were trying to determine its legality and size permission amongst the categories. Now, we're just flat out saying if it's a property for sale or lease, which you can obviously go to the MLS and find if something is for sale, then there's a separate rule for that. So those are treated as permanent signs now, except other than as opposed to temporary before. So for 7 days a month and 12 months a year, any business may post in all zoning districts the following. One sign at 6 square feet in the public right-of-way, and it does require an adjacent landowner's permission. So for example, if you have a business and you want to put a sign 300 or 400 feet that way, you have to contact that owner because they're watering the grass, they're mowing around it, maybe they don't want to mow around it. So we put that as a neighbor-to-neighbor type of relationship. If you're in the multifamily and commercial industrial zoning districts, it's one sign at 32 square feet on private property and up to 2 at 6 square feet on private property. These numbers used to be much larger. We used to allow, I think it was up to, if it was, quote, an election season sign, well, we'll get into it in a minute, you were allowed up to 10. So we've really pared this down to what is a reasonable standard and can be reasonably enforced. All other zoning districts, you're allowed to post temporary signs, two signs at 6 square feet on private property. So here comes the election season signage. Again, because we can't regulate according to purpose, we can regulate according to time, which is an allowed use or an allowed regulation. Election 60 days before and 48 hours after an election, continuous display is permitted. And so that's where we can do longer than 7 days. It doesn't change how many you can do. Actually, it does. It gives an additional bump of a couple of extra signs during election season because obviously there's always more than one candidate, one ballot issue. So we increase the number of signs, but we allow it during that season. So that's how we've addressed this issue with election season signage. Now, if the temporary signage does not work for any particular business, they can then again come back, get a permanent sign permit, and such. And this one here again relates to the real estate signs if they're posted longer than 7 days. So that's kind of a summary of the temporary signage. It's a lot to look at, I know, but it's really where we ended up with the Planning Commission, trying to come up with this, what is a temporary sign? It's not how it's used, it's where it's placed and how long is it placed. So I'll stop there. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, let's look at permanent signs. Again, old rules, I'll do it real fast. The basic the basic calculation is 2 square feet for each foot of a building, frontage facing a street in your commercial and industrial districts, maximum of 150 per street, 2 per street frontage. The monument signs where you see multi-tenants listed, all of these standards, there are no changes in any of the standards. So the only thing we're really changing is a couple of things, and we do have an amendment to talk about tonight that's not in your packet, but was brought to our attention. So it's subdivision signs. This is where we have the name of a subdivision, Sandstone, Top Shelf. They do a name of the neighborhood. Again, because we have to talk about location, we've switched up the language there. Signs posted as subdivision entries, 100 square feet, a lot of them are less. But that's our current subdivision sign regulation translated into location type of language. Church signs now are permitted at 50 square feet, 1 per street frontage. Those are going to have to be changing. The ones that are non-conforming or larger than 32 square feet can stay as is, whereas until they want to change it. So the formula is coming down a little bit. They can only do 32 square feet again because we're having to strike equity with what other signage is allowed in a residential district. Commercially zoned areas, they just follow the commercial formula. Overall height is unchanging at 35 feet. Standards of illumination, no change. This one here on non-conforming signs was very important, and this is one that this council had said they wanted to see modified. It used to be that there was a line drawn in 2024, or if your sign was not conforming, you had to comply by that date in September. And it's been a while. The council last year decided, let's make that something that is more related to changes of the sign. Are you taking it down? Are you making it bigger? Are you adding extra square footage? That's when we look at it. And non-conforming can stay and it can be maintained so long as there's no actual changes to the overall size, shape, illumination, height, etc. of the sign. So those are all vested as non-conforming signs without a penalty by a date of compliance. One thing I do want to add is in the Planning Commission meeting, there was a discussion about the need for, back to the permanent signage and properties listed for sale. A lot of our master developers do use these marketing signs. The Planning Commission recommended 20 square feet for this type of sign, and the way we would describe this would be, we'd have to amend the code to say, signs used for the purposes of at neighborhood entries governed under Chapter 15A of Subdivision Code. So we can't talk about subdivision signs, but we can say if the property is being governed by the subdivision code, they get an extra little bump in signage. These are 32 square feet as opposed to 20. And this was provided from some input from one of our local project developers here. A 20 square foot sign would be roughly about, as I'm kind of outlining with the hand, right about there. So 5 by 4 as opposed to 32 square feet. The Planning Commission recommended 20 square feet. So if you wish to set first reading tonight, public hearing and approve first reading, we need some direction on if you're willing to allow this type of sign to be 32 square feet or 20. And at this point, 2 are allowed per property. So that concludes the majority of the changes in the sign ordinance, and I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Tony.
With the development sign like you've got on the screen, is there any way that you can have a timeline when they're removed? You know, say when 90% of the lots sold or 80% or something?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
we could.
Done.
Sure. And typically they do come down once everything is sold out because this is probably posted on a lot that is for sale, but owned by the developer. We can, if you would like to include that in your motion, that's fine.
Any additional questions? Go ahead.
I guess, do you have any heartburn over seeing it be a 32? Spencer, thanks for taking the time to put the email together and everything. I think it was pretty well put together. I guess I don't have no background on it. Was there major heartburn from being 20 to 32 square feet? Is that a big deal breaker?
May
Go ahead.
I? No, Councilman Eisenbrand, we don't see a meaningful difference. Again, a 4x8 sign in a fairly large open outdoor setting is imperceptible. I think the 20 square feet is where the Planning Commission ended up because there were other provisions in the sign code. Signs like this were ending up at 20 and they're just trying to make that the same. But staff doesn't have any issues with it at 32 square feet.
So is the question to keep it that way then? We could keep it at 32, is that what the request is for?
Yeah, just looking for direction on keeping it at 32 or dropping it to 20.
Yeah, 4 by 5 versus 4 by 8, an extra 3 feet we don't think makes a difference.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. The non-conforming language indicates any sign existing on the date of adoption. It looks like it could be kept, so it wouldn't necessarily affect those currently. So I guess it's a question of going forward, are we concerned about the size, or, because the current ones aren't going to be affected the way I would read this.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
That is correct. Any sign that is outside of the size limitations could remain as is, where is on these subdivision signs, correct? Is that specific to that subdivision sign? That's right. They could remain as is, where is until such time that they decide to move them or take them down, then they must comply.
All right, go ahead, Marty.
To go back to basically the beginning where you started, could you explain the feather signs again? I mean, we discussed that 6 months ago, 8 months ago, on, you know, some of the car dealers and whatnot wanted to put some in, and it seems to me that at the time we figured if you brought them in, then you can put them out, but now we're saying 7 days. So could you expand on that, I guess, and explain how you see this working?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So the Planning Commission talked a lot about the use of the feather banner. And from the business owners that we heard, their input was, we need them to promote weekend, like we'll just use the auto dealers, for example. A weekend sale event is coming. I want to post it on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I'll probably pull it on Monday, and then I'll put it back out there for a few extra days the following weekend while the promotion runs. The struggle that the Planning Commission had was, does temporary truly mean temporary, as in a very limited amount of time in a given month, or is it, they also looked at 90 days in a row, and their position was that anything displayed continuously and for up to 90 days really is not temporary. It's losing the impact. Temporary signs are meant for something different is happening, and it's a very limited amount of time, and here's the temporary sign to describe that. And so the 7 days, and we did meet with the business community here on the 15th of January. We had a little round table, and they talked about it. And I know a couple of the business owners felt that that was a reasonable use for that. That they don't want to put them out necessarily every day, but they do want to have the flexibility to display them on occasion. And if they got very creative, they could always take the last 7 days of month number 1 and connect it to the first 7 days of month number 2. So there's ways to accommodate.
Go ahead.
So, not to be pessimistic, but if somebody puts out a sign, a handful of feather signs, or then until somebody complains that they're up longer than they should before they get a letter, so then they take it down for a month, put them back out, and then it would take somebody else to complain again 20 days later before they take them down again. I mean, is that possible?
Yeah, unfortunately it is.
Okay.
That's just the way it will work. If we want to allow them, and to be clear, the feather banners, they're still considered temporary signs, and we essentially have enabled them, and they're only allowed in these zoning districts. Let's see, R3, Central Core, C1, C2, C3, basically all your commercial zoning districts. This is the number, 32 square feet, which all feather banners are usually under that, but that covers all bases. And they do get to do 1 per lot. And if they have, essentially, the footnote to the 1 is 3 or more contiguous lots under the same ownership are still considered 1 lot. So if you had, 2 lots, the most you could do is 2. So there is some limitations as to how many can be placed, et cetera. Again, all on private property, not at all on the public right of way.
Go ahead.
So I guess I was thinking that several months ago we discussed that so many lineal feet they'd be able to put in, you know, an additional sign or whatever, so that's not being addressed with these changes.
Mr. Chair, may and I have to go back and look at the distance requirements. 50 feet, let's see.
First one, looks like.
There we go. Okay, and this is in the public right-of-way. If you have one of the smaller signs and it's in the public right-of-way, minimum spacing of 50 feet between temporary signs, but that does not apply to feather banners. Feather banners are too large to be in the public right-of-way. So for a 7-day period, you could have one feather banner placed on a property 7 days in a row, take it down, wait for the next month to come around, post it again on private property. But as you said, yes, if there's a complaint or even, and many times the city staff will notice something has been displayed longer, and then that's when we start marking the 7-day period. So it's not a lot of time that passes before we can do enforcement.
I guess I don't have a problem with them. It's just I've been to a couple of communities where they're out all the time for, and they get beat up by the sun, and then pretty soon they look bad, and it just makes the whole street look bad because, one person doesn't take care of their signs, I guess, so.
Sure.
Questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I'd move to approve the first reading of ordinance 1310 with the amendment to approve the 32-foot
Okay.
development signs.
32 square foot.
32 square foot, yeah, not 32 feet. Square feet.
You got it. All right, and we have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, and any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And I just want to say thank you to Planning and Zoning for all the effort they put into it, and you too, Gina. Did a great job, and I know a lot of that is volunteer work, so we appreciate it.
And to the business community that
Yes.
really participated, because without their input,
Yeah.
what's the point? So.
Definitely, and we now have a working document. That's good. All right, and on to public safety. Approve second reading of ordinance 1309, an ordinance amending chapter 18, section 18-216, tap fees.
Mr. Chair, this is simply second reading. There have been no changes since first council action on this in first reading.
Move to approve second reading ordinance 1309.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right, this is a roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrown,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And approve the build list dated February 3rd, 2020. Go ahead. Michelle, anything to add to that?
Nope, nothing to add.
All right.
Team Bell Life.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, first and a second, any discussion on that? All right, roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Eisenbrown,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
All right, and we'll move to mayor and council items. Item B, FYI, Mayor Boak proclaimed January 28th, 2020 as Spearfish Small Business Day during the Small Business Revolution Rally and Community Celebration at Spearfish High School. Thank you for doing that, Mayor Boak. And department discussion items. Mike, anything else?
Mr. Chair. This week, Ashley and I meet with Dream Designs to negotiate the terms of the development agreement. Last week, we sent a draft of that to council for your consideration. Any feedback you have prior to this Thursday would be very helpful in coming to an agreement that works for both sides. So appreciate your time and look forward to your comments.
All right, thank you. Gina, anything?
I have nothing.
All right, Tyler, anything?
One item, some exciting news. I got a call on Friday from Logan Grand, the grant coordinator for the TA grant, and she told us that we were successful in our $400,000 for the Exit 8 rec path. So it's great news for the city. That's $400,000 in tax dollars that won't be spent on the rec path, that we get basically free money from the state through the federal highway program. It does mean some things though. The project will definitely get pushed back. They were telling us a year all along. Now the staff member that presented it at the commission meeting said 2022. I immediately called and said, hey, whoa, we were told a year. And she said, it's not set in stone that it's in 2022. It really depends on your staff and the design and and getting it through the process. So we will work feverishly to get it finished in the design and get to the environmental and get it through the process to try to get it implemented in 2021. So.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for all your hard work and all the staff that you had working with you. Awesome.
Yeah,
Anytime
definitely
you get
Tanya Vig helped, Trent Walters, Kyle. It was definitely a team effort. Lysanne from Black Hills Council of Local Governments was a big part of that, so it was definitely a team effort. So.
Yeah. Well, and anytime we can get $400,000 to help our quality of life and we don't have to put it out of our pockets, it's great. So thank you. Anything else? All right. And Michelle, anything?
No.
All right. And Pat?
I do not have an addition.
All right. And then is there anything from council members this time? All right. And then if that's the case, we'll open up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Hello everyone, Mayor, Council. My name is John Dale. I live at 239 West Jackson here in Spearfish. Also, hi to everyone still in attendance at this point of the meeting. Good for you. So I guess let's consider this the 5G report. There's some exciting and interesting news that is filtering through various channels that I monitor on this issue. It looks like Brexit's going to have an effect, a distinct effect on the 5G rollout in the UK. So this is going to affect any deals pending with Huawei and other big 5G providers of equipment. It looks like there's a large lawsuit pending from very credible, well-funded sources to restore local rights for autonomy in the wireless space so that cities can oppose wireless technologies if they want to on health grounds and health basis. The research has been there since the 1990s to support a link, a carcinogenic link between wireless technologies and human health. In the Telecommunications Act, though, it specifically prohibits municipalities from defending themselves on the basis of health. So that's good news. Wuhan, China is the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak right now. Their 5G network went online October 31st, that is Halloween, full coverage of 2019. That's a very interesting fact that I'm monitoring in context right now. And then I'm hopeful that this issue breaks loose soon so that mainstream outlets start to cover the wireless issue. Because there's a way, I think, to deploy wireless systems that's healthy and beneficial. And then last but not least, Governor Noem has recently emphasized fiber optic connections in rural South Dakota as a game changer for farms in South Dakota who want to do automation. So that was a change, I think, in strategy from explicitly endorsing 5G to actually saying there are other alternatives, and Spearfish should look at those as well. So thank you, that's all I have for this time. See you next time around.
Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood camerawoman, Sam Ryder here. I live at the college. On Singles Awareness Day, aka Valentine's Day, I'm having a bake sale to raise more money for the animal shelter. So I want to invite everybody to that. It'll be at Changing Spaces from 1 to 5 on February 14th, so aka Singles Awareness Day. But yeah, there you go. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else want to speak during public comment? All right, seeing nobody, we will close public comment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.